In 1937, Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich. 20 million copies sold, changed millions of lives. But there was something he discovered before that book, something he never fully explained, something hidden in plain sight. A principle so simple, most people miss it entirely. He called it organized effort. But what he really meant was this: the external chaos in your life is a mirror, a perfect reflection of the internal chaos in your mind. And here's what most people don't understand. When you organize the physical, you're actually reorganizing the metaphysical. You're not just cleaning your room. You're rewriting your reality. Hill spent 25 years studying the wealthiest people in America: Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and he found a pattern, not in what they did, but in how they lived. Every single one of them had systems, not just for business, for everything. Their desks, their schedules, their thoughts. Everything had a place. Everything had a purpose. Everything was organized. And Hill realized something profound, something that would change his entire philosophy. This is the Hidden Codex, where ancient wisdom meets modern power. Napoleon Hill wasn't just a writer. He was an investigator of success. Born in 1883 in a one-room cabin in Virginia. Poor, uneducated, directionless. At 25, he was hired by a magazine to interview Andrew Carnegie. What was supposed to be a 3-hour interview turned into 3 days. And at the end of those 3 days, Carnegie made him an offer that would consume the next 25 years of Hill's life. Carnegie said, "I will introduce you to the 500 most successful people in America. You will study them, document them, find the pattern, and then you will share it with the world. But I won't pay you. This is your test, your mission, your life's work." Hill said yes, and for the next 2.5 decades, he studied titans: Rockefeller, Ford, Edison, Wanamaker, presidents, inventors, industrialists, and slowly he began to see it. The invisible thread connecting them all. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't connections. It wasn't even opportunity. It was something else. Something they all did, that no one else was doing. Before we go deeper into what Hill truly discovered, if you sense there's more to success than what you've been told, if you're ready to see the hidden mechanics of reality, subscribe to the Hidden Codex. Hit that notification bell, because what comes next cannot be unlearned. Let's continue. Hill didn't just study success. He studied the invisible forces behind success. And in 1928, during an interview with Andrew Carnegie, something happened. Carnegie looked at Hill and said, "You want to know the real secret? Look at your desk when you go home tonight. That will tell you everything you need to know about your future." Hill didn't understand. Not yet. But that night, he looked, and what he saw disturbed him. Papers everywhere, notes scattered, books piled randomly. His external world was a mess, and suddenly he understood. His internal world was the same. Thoughts scattered, energy fragmented, intentions diluted. Carnegie wasn't giving him organizational advice. He was showing him a law, a hidden law of reality. Hill wrote in his personal journal, "The outer is always a reflection of the inner. To change your life, change your space. To change your space, change your mind. But here's the paradox. You must start with the outer to access the inner." Pause. Most people read that and think it's backwards. They think, fix your mindset first, then organize your life. But Hill discovered the opposite. The physical world is the gateway, because your environment is not separate from you. It's an extension of your consciousness. When you organize it, You organize yourself. When you clean it, you clear yourself. When you structure it, you restructure your reality. Hill began testing this principle, first on himself. He spent an entire weekend reorganizing his office. Every paper filed, every book categorized, every drawer labeled. He threw away half of what he owned. Notes from years ago that he'd never read again. Books he'd never finish. Objects with no purpose. And when he finished, something shifted. He sat at his desk Monday morning, and for the first time in months, his mind was quiet. Not empty, quiet, like a still lake. And in that stillness, ideas began to surface. Not forced ideas, not strained ideas. Clear ideas, fully formed, ready to execute. He wrote 5,000 words that day, more than he'd written in the previous month combined, and he realized the chaos in his space had been creating chaos in his mind, and the order in his space was creating order in his thoughts. Hill wrote, "I believed I had a focus problem. I didn't. I had an environment problem. The moment I cleared my space, my mind cleared itself." So here's what Hill actually taught, but never in these exact words. He called it the law of reflected order, and it works like this. Every object in your space carries energy, not metaphorical energy, actual energy. Every unfinished task, every misplaced item, every piece of clutter. Each one is a fragment of your attention, a piece of your consciousness scattered. And here's what most people don't realize. Your mind cannot fully focus when your environment is fragmented. It's neurologically impossible because your subconscious is constantly processing your surroundings, constantly scanning, constantly registering. That pile of papers on your desk, your subconscious sees it and registers. Unfinished, unresolved, incomplete. That closet full of clothes you never wear, your subconscious registers. Excess, waste, stagnation. That phone full of unread messages, your subconscious registers. Obligation, overwhelm, chaos. And all of that is draining your power every single moment. Hill wrote, "A cluttered environment is a thief. It steals clarity. It steals energy. It steals the very force you need to manifest your desires." And then he wrote something even more disturbing. Most people wonder why their prayers go unanswered. They don't realize their environment is praying louder than they are. Pause. Think about that. Your environment is sending signals to the universe constantly. And if those signals are chaos, guess what you attract? More chaos. Hill discovered this wasn't just philosophical. It was practical, measurable. He began tracking the habits of the successful people he studied, and he found something shocking. Every single one of them had a morning ritual that included organizing their space, not cleaning, organizing. Henry Ford would arrive at his office an hour early, not to work, to prepare his workspace. He'd arrange his tools, clear his desk, review his schedule. Only then would he begin. Edison did the same. Before every experiment, he'd organize his lab, every instrument in place, every material labeled, every surface clean. He called it setting the stage for discovery. And Hill realized these men weren't being meticulous for the sake of it. They were creating conditions. Conditions for focus. Conditions for clarity. Conditions for genius. Hill wrote, "Genius is not born, it is constructed. And the first tool of construction is order." So how does this work in practice? Let's say you want to start a business. You have the idea. You have the passion. You might even have the plan. But your desk is a disaster. Papers mixed with old receipts, notes from 3 months ago buried under coffee cups, cables tangled, files unnamed. And every time you sit down to work, you feel it. That subtle resistance, that low-level anxiety, that sense of, I can't focus. Most people blame themselves. They think, I just need more discipline, more motivation. But Hill saw something else. He saw that the environment was sabotaging them, not because it's messy, but because it's energetically incoherent. Your mind craves order. It's how it functions best. When your environment is ordered, your thoughts become ordered. When your space is clear, your vision becomes clear. When your surroundings are intentional, your actions become intentional. Hill called this environmental alignment, and he said, before you write a business plan, organize your desk. Before you set a goal, organize your space. Before you ask for guidance, organize your chaos, because the universe only speaks to order. Hill began teaching this to his students, and the results were immediate. One student was a struggling salesman, hadn't closed a deal in 3 months. Hill asked him, "Show me your car." The car was a disaster. Papers in the back seat, trash on the floor, samples scattered everywhere. Hill said, "Clean it, today. Make it spotless. Then tell me what happens." The student thought it was ridiculous, but he did it anyway. Spent 4 hours cleaning his car, vacuumed, organized, detailed. The next day, he closed 3 deals. The day after that, 2 more. Within a week, he'd had his best month in 2 years. Hill asked him, "What changed?" The student said, "I don't know. I just felt different, more confident, more professional, like I deserved success." And Hill said, "Exactly. Your environment told you who you were, and when you changed your environment, you changed your identity." Now here's where it gets deeper. Hill noticed something in his research. The most successful people he studied didn't just have organized offices. They had organized lives. Their mornings followed a routine. Their meals were intentional. Their relationships were structured. Everything had a place, not because they were rigid, but because they understood something most people miss. Freedom doesn't come from chaos. It comes from order. When you have systems, you free your mind from decision fatigue. When you have routines, you free your energy for creation. When you have organization, you free your consciousness for vision. Hill interviewed Thomas Edison, and Edison told him, "People think I'm a genius. I'm not. I'm organized. I have a system for everything. My experiments, my notes, my time. And because of that, my mind is free to invent." Pause. Edison wasn't being humble. He was revealing a secret. Organization isn't about control. It's about liberation. When your external world is structured, your internal world becomes spacious. And in that space, magic happens. Ideas flow. Intuition speaks. Opportunities appear. Not because you're working harder, but because you're no longer working against yourself. Hill took this further. He started teaching something he called the sacred space principle. And here's how it works. Choose one area of your life, just one. Your desk, your bedroom, your car, your phone, and make it perfect. Not cluttered, not chaotic, not good enough. Perfect. Every item intentional, every surface clear, every corner clean. And then maintain it. Religiously, Hill said, this space becomes your anchor, your reference point, your proof that order is possible. And from this one space, order will spread. He called it the ripple effect of alignment, because once you create one sacred space, something shifts. You start noticing the chaos everywhere else, and it bothers you, not in a neurotic way, but in a purposeful way. You start thinking, if I can make my desk perfect, why not my closet? If I can organize my closet, why not my finances? If I can organize my finances, why not my goals? And slowly, your entire life transforms, not through willpower, through momentum. Hill wrote, "Order begets order. Chaos begets chaos. Start with one space, master it, and watch God organize the rest." Hill tested this principle with another student, a writer who couldn't finish anything. Started 10 novels, finished none. Hill visited his home and immediately understood. The writer's desk was chaos. Multiple manuscripts mixed together, notes for different projects scattered. No system, no structure. Hill said, "You don't have a creativity problem. You have an organization problem. Your environment is telling you nothing ever finishes here." The writer argued, said creativity can't be organized. That chaos fuels inspiration. Hill said, "Then why haven't you finished anything in 5 years?" Silence. Hill gave him an assignment. Organize your desk, one project at a time, one folder per manuscript, one system, clear and simple, then write. The writer resisted, but eventually complied. Spent 2 days organizing, creating folders, labeling manuscripts, establishing a system. And then something happened. He sat down to write, and the words flowed, not in bursts, in steady, sustained torrents. 6 weeks later, he finished his first novel. 3 months after that, his second. Hill asked him, "What changed?" The writer said, "I stopped fighting myself. My environment was reflecting my scattered mind, and my scattered mind was creating a scattered environment. Once I organized one, the other organized itself." But here's what Hill never published, the part that was too mystical for his mainstream audience. He believed that physical organization was actually spiritual alignment, that when you organize your space, you're creating a vessel, a container, for higher intelligence to flow through. Hill wrote in a private letter to a student, "Cluttered spaces block divine guidance, not because God refuses to speak, but because you cannot hear. The noise of disorder drowns out the whispers of wisdom." Think about that. How many times have you asked for clarity while sitting in chaos? How many times have you prayed for direction while surrounded by distraction? Hill believed that organization was a form of prayer, an act of devotion, a way of saying, "I am ready, I am prepared, I am creating space for what is coming." And when you do that, the universe responds, not with words, but with opportunities, coincidences that aren't coincidences, meetings that change everything, ideas that arrive fully formed. Hill called this divine coordination, and he said it only happened to those who created the space for it. Hill shared a story in one of his private lectures, a story he never put in print, about Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie once told him, "When I was young and poor, I had nothing, but I kept my room immaculate. One chair, one table, one bed, everything in its place. People thought I was obsessive, but I knew something they didn't. I was preparing the vessel, and one day, the vessel was filled." Hill asked him, "What filled it?" Carnegie said, "Opportunity, ideas, people, all at once, as if the universe had been waiting for me to be ready, and the signal that I was ready was order." Hill studied this principle across cultures, ancient philosophies, religious traditions, esoteric teachings, and he found the same pattern everywhere. In Buddhism, monks maintain immaculate temples, not for aesthetics, for consciousness, because a clear space creates a clear mind. In monasteries, the first discipline taught is organization. Your cell, your robes, your schedule, everything in order. Because without external order, internal order is impossible. Hill found the same teaching in Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is order. To live in accordance with it, you must embody it." The Stoics believed that a disordered life was a life out of alignment with nature, and a life out of alignment with nature was a life of suffering. Hill wrote, "Every philosophy that has stood the test of time teaches the same thing. Order is not optional, it is foundational." Now let's talk about what happens when you don't organize, because Hill studied failure as much as success, and he found a pattern. Every person who failed had one thing in common: disorganization, not laziness, not lack of talent, not bad luck. Disorganization. Their desks were chaos. Their schedules were random. Their finances were unclear. Their goals were vague. And because of that, their energy was scattered. Hill wrote, "A scattered life produces scattered results, and scattered results produce a scattered mind, and a scattered mind cannot manifest anything of value." He called this the death spiral of disorder, because once it starts, it accelerates. The more chaos you allow, the more chaos you create. The more chaos you create, the less power you have. The less power you have, the more you rely on luck. And luck always runs out. Hill said, "Organized people don't need luck. They create conditions, and conditions produce certainty." Hill documented case after case. People with talent, with opportunity, with resources, who failed anyway because they couldn't organize. One man had $1 million idea, investors ready, market eager, everything aligned, but he couldn't execute because his life was chaos. Missed meetings, lost documents, forgotten commitments. Within 6 months, the opportunity was gone. The investors moved on, and the man was left wondering, what happened? Hill told him, "You weren't ready. Your life told the universe, 'I cannot handle this,' and the universe believed you." Hill discovered something else, something darker, that chaos is addictive, because chaos creates drama, and drama creates the illusion of importance. People who live in chaos always have a crisis, always have an excuse, always have a reason why things didn't work out, and that reason is never their fault. Hill wrote, "Chaos is the refuge of the irresponsible, because in chaos you can always claim it was too complicated, too overwhelming, too much, and people will believe you. But here's the truth. You chose the chaos, and you're using it as armor against accountability, against growth, against success." Harsh words. But Hill didn't write them to be cruel. He wrote them because he'd seen it too many times. People who claimed they wanted success, but refused to organize their lives. People who prayed for opportunity, but couldn't manage their calendars. People who dreamed of wealth, but couldn't track their spending. Hill said, "You cannot rise to a level of order you're unwilling to embody. Your outer world will never exceed your inner discipline, and your inner discipline is always visible in your space." So, what does this mean for you? It means Hill is asking you to stop waiting. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for clarity. Stop waiting for the right time. Start with what's in front of you: your desk, your room, your inbox, your phone. Organize it, not tomorrow, now. Because every moment you spend in chaos is a moment you're reinforcing chaos. And every moment you spend in order is a moment you're building power. Hill wrote, "The man who cannot organize his desk cannot organize his destiny." Pause. Let that sit. He wasn't exaggerating. He was revealing a law of correspondence. As within, so without. As above, so below. As in your space, so in your life. Hill spent his final years teaching this principle. Not in seminars, not in books, but in private letters to students who were ready. And in one of those letters he wrote, "I have given the world the secrets of wealth, but the secret before the secret I saved for those who truly seek, and it is this: organize your mess, not as a task, but as a ritual, as an offering, as a declaration to the universe that you are ready for what comes next. And when you do, watch. Watch as synchronicities multiply. Watch as doors open. Watch as your life begins to reorganize itself around your highest purpose." He signed the letter. The chaos you tolerate is the success you forfeit. Hill gave one final teaching, one he called the 24-hour test. He said, "If you want to know your future, look at how you've organized the last 24 hours. Not what you intended, what you actually did, where you actually placed your energy, what you actually maintained. That is your truth, and your truth is creating your reality." He continued, "Most people lie to themselves. They say, 'I want success,' but their space says, 'I want comfort.' They say, 'I want clarity,' but their schedule says, 'I want distraction.' They say, 'I want growth,' but their actions say, 'I want to stay the same.' And the universe doesn't listen to what you say. It responds to what you embody." Hill issued a challenge to every student. For the next 24 hours, organize everything you touch. Make your bed. Clear your desk. Clean your car. Order your schedule. Structure your time. And at the end of those 24 hours, notice what you feel. Notice what thoughts arise. Notice what opportunities appear. Because I promise you, something will shift. And that shift will reveal what's been holding you back. Thousands of students took the challenge, and Hill documented their results. 92% reported increased clarity within the first day. 78% reported new opportunities within the first week. 64% reported significant life changes within the first month. Not because they learned something new, but because they embodied something true. Hill wrote, "You already know what to do. You just haven't created the space to do it." Hill saw something most refuse to see. Not because it's hidden, but because it requires action. Immediate, uncomfortable, undeniable action. It's easier to read about success than to organize your desk. It's easier to visualize wealth than to clean your space. It's easier to dream about change than to create the conditions for it. But Hill knew, and he proved, that the people who succeed are the people who don't wait for perfect circumstances. They create them, one organized space at a time. And here's the final truth. The truth Hill discovered after 25 years of research, after interviewing 500 of the most successful people in the world, after documenting thousands of failures and triumphs. The truth is this: success is not a mystery, it's a system. And the system starts with order. Not metaphorical order, physical order. The kind you can see, the kind you can touch, the kind you can measure. Because when you organize your space, you're not just moving objects, you're programming your subconscious. You're signaling to your nervous system, I am in control, I am capable, I am ready. And when your nervous system believes that, everything changes. Your confidence rises. Your focus sharpens. your energy increases. Not because you're working harder, but because you're no longer working against yourself. Hill's final words on this principle were, "The universe is not withholding from you. You are withholding from yourself by tolerating disorder, by accepting chaos, by living beneath your potential. And the moment you organize your mess, you signal that you're ready. And the universe always responds to readiness." The question now is, are you ready to stop tolerating chaos? Or will you keep wondering why nothing changes? Most people keep wondering, but you're still here. So maybe you're different. Maybe you're one of the few who actually takes action. Who understands that reading about success is not the same as creating it. Who knows that inspiration without execution is just entertainment. If this revealed something you needed to hear, hit that subscribe button. Tap that like button. Because here at the Hidden Codex, we don't just share theories. We reveal the hidden mechanics of reality, the principles they buried, the laws they forgot, the truths that actually work. Next time, we'll explore the hidden teachings of Marcus Aurelius on internal power. You don't want to miss that. Until then, organize your mess and watch what happens. Watch as your mind clears. Watch as your energy returns. Watch as opportunities appear. Not because you manifested them, but because you finally created the space for them to land. Hill was right. Order is not optional. It's foundational. And the moment you understand that is the moment your life begins.